for joining us. Supervisor Lee is very excited to have the urgent grant again this year. This is going into our third year, and we have had some changes. Hui Tran, for those of you who have worked with him before and were funded before, he has moved to take on other responsibilities for the supervisor. So as I said, I am and Taylor overseeing the urgent grant process. I'm going to start sharing my screen. And I'm not sure if you can see that or not. Okay, Taylor, you're going to have to be my eyes and ears. So can you see the 2023 grant application?
Yes, you're good, Naomi.
Thank you. Okay, so basically the grant opened last week, application opened last week, and April 12th is the deadline to have your application submitted by 5 o'clock. Now, you can submit before then, and we would gladly take those applications because we have a grant review panel from the community who will be reviewing all the grant applications. None of the staff will be scoring the grant applications. It will be done by community members, and that's part of our transparency commitment. And so the sooner that you can get them in, the sooner that they can get everything reviewed, read, and scored, and onto the process. So we do have a deadline of April 27th to submit everything to our the county offices so that we can move forward on processing those grantees that get the funding awarded. For those of you that are new, the urgent grants are a way that the Supervisor Lee is able to get funding out primarily to emerging organizations or organizations that have budgets under, I'm trying to find that. I had it all laid out. And so budgets under $500,000. And so, oh, sorry. And so it is to support primarily, like as the phrase goes, boots on the ground organizations that are really doing the hard work and are not that the other organizations aren't, but that could use this level of funding to get them maybe to the next level. So URGENT stands for, and I should, now that I'm on the spot, Taylor, help me out with what URGENT, the acronyms are.
I believe it's unhoused, racial justice, green. I think it's at the bottom too. And then T is transparency, I believe. Let me see. Oh, it's unhoused, racial justice, green, equity, neighborhoods, and transparency.
Okay, great. So basically, then all that is required of an organization submitting a grant application is to submit this fillable form and keep it under the pages that are required for the tier that you are requesting funding for. So there are three tiers of funding. First tier is if your organization's annual budget is under $100,000, then you would qualify under tier 1, which is micro grants that could be funded up to $5,000. So doesn't mean that you will automatically receive $5,000 if you're awarded. It could be $2,500, $3,000. It could anywhere up to $5,000. For tier 2, This is for organizations whose budgets are no more than $250,000. And the maximum amount is $15,000 for tier 2. For tier 3, it is for organizations whose budgets are under $500,000 or $500,000. And tier 3 funding is up to $25,000. So if you are an organization whose annual budget is $90,000, you would not be able to submit for tier 3 funding. You would only be able to submit for tier 1 funding. Now, if you are an organization who has a budget of $500,000, but only want to apply for $20,000, that's perfectly fine. You would still have to apply under tier 3. Okay. And then the other thing to note is that you do have to be a 501c3. And I'm going to start with the grant application and go through that from here. So again, if you have any questions or need some help with the form, then you can contact Taylor or I at grantsd3@bos.secgov.org. And all of this information I've pulled from our website. So if you go to our website, you'll be able to access this. And the submission form is here. And then so starting with section 1, you would put the name of your organization. And this is all fillable PDF. So you just have to fill it right in. The organization address, the name of the primary contact. So this is who will be working with us and our county staff here. Your primary email address and your phone number. And then the next part, which is a requirement for applying, is the applicant a registered 501c3? So you will need to put yes or no. If yes, then you will need to put your 501c3 number. And if not, then you will need to have a fiscal agent who is willing to sponsor you, and you will need to put in their number here. And then also they will need to fill out a certification of fiscal agency form. Okay. Then moving on to section 2, you will need to, again, we went over this, which tier you will fall under. And then this is where you will put that. And then there are an area that if you do not meet these 3 are within one of these 3 tier categories, there may be another way that you can get funding, which could be a sponsorship for a event or some other type of programming. And so you can mark the other funding request box. All of these questions are very important. Next one is, have you requested funding for your organization from any other county supervisor? So you will need to mark yes or no. So if you are also asking or submitting a grant application to Supervisor Chavez's or to Supervisor Smithian or any of the other 4 supervisors, you will need to list that and which supervisor's funding format you are requesting that for. And this is important as from beyond our offices with the clerk of the board, they have to manage all that. And so if they have to go back and look at that, that means more work for them. So if you could please put that down, that will be helpful. Then the document submission, section 3 of 3, you will need to provide your written grant application on a form that has everything is in Times New Roman, size 12 font, needs to be double spaced and with 1-inch margins. Now, depending on the tier level that you're applying for, there will be different number of pages that you can submit for. So, but everyone will need to have this following. You need to have, there's no format. You just need to come up with your own format for this. The introduction or narrative of your organization, telling us a little bit about yourself, that's a maximum of 2 pages. Your project proposal or project narrative, that's up to 3 pages. And then the potential impacts on whether it is for youth, for seniors, or for sustainability. And it could be fit under all 3 or at least one of them. You have 2 pages there. And then you will need to have your social media handle, and then your primary contacts and references. And I want to go back and say that for all of these are maximum. So for some tiers, you may only have 1 page maximum as opposed to 2 pages. Then the last part is that you need to verify. And the simplest thing that you can do is a verification that you just copy and paste this verification under penalty of perjury and sign and date it, just to say that you meet the eligibility requirements. So going over the maximum number of pages for tier 1, you can have no more than 3 pages. For tier 2, no more than 5 pages. And then tier 3 is no more than 7 pages. So as I was talking about earlier, this introductory thing, you will need to figure out how to do that under the page cap requirements. Okay, and then you will, so if you add a cover page or pictures or information and other supplementary information, that will not count against your maximum page count. Okay, and then what you will need to do is upload your grant submission into a PDF format. And for tier 2 and 3, you have a proposed budget that needs to be included and uploaded also. So in the end, when you submit your application on or before April 12th, you will submit only 1 PDF file, and everything will be in that PDF file. I'm going to give you an example of, and since this is all public information, I didn't have time to contact the Sunnyvale Education Foundation. I'm still using their application form to show you what it looks like. And they did a great job, actually, and that's why so this is their form from last year. It meets the maximum page requirements, and what is important are the following that I wanted to show you. It has the social media handle that is requested, the primary contacts, and then I added on here what I had talked about the verification under perjury. So just the your signature, your name, position, and date before you submit it. Then they added a supplemental blank page, and then they added their annual report. And so this is all one PDF, and it came in and was submitted that way. And that's for tier 2 and 3. Your budget will also be included in there. I need to go back to. Okay. Is that showing now back to the grant application again, Taylor?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So, and if your organization has a fiscal agent, you will also need to do the certification of fiscal agency. Then on page 5, you will list which project or policy priority area that your application is addressing. So whether it's in-house, racial justice, green, equity, neighborhoods, or transparency, and you can mark more than one, but you will need to justify how those are related. actually, if you are submitting for an in-house project, that would be one application. And if it was fitting under equity instead, and you had two different projects, then you would submit a new application under equity. But one application can fit all 5 or all 6 of these categories. Let's see. And again, if you do not qualify for urgent grants, you may still submit a request for funding using this form. And then you have to conform all those funding requests under the Tier 3 grant requirements. And that is primarily it. I don't know if there are questions, but it is a fairly easy form to fill out. And I will take questions from here.
Naomi, there's some questions in the chat if you want me to read them to you. So
Okay, yes.
One of them, Vaishali asked, could you qualify for 2 tiers, or do you have to pick one and apply accordingly?
You have to apply for one, and that tier is based on your annual organizational budget, not a program. So if you're a division of a program, I'm going to just pick on a big organization like Catholic Charities. You can't. Their budget would be, you can't use just your division budget, say like and I'm making this all up, for the behavioral health program. You can't use that budget. It has to be the whole agency or organization budget. Does that make sense?
Thanks, Naomi. And then a second question from Vaishali is regarding requesting funding from other supervisors. That question on the application, is that for this fiscal year only or ever in your history?
Oh, for this particular grant funding cycle.
All right. And then David asked, are you seeking 501c3 tax ID number, corporation number, or is it another number?
The 501c3 tax, let's see, the 501c3 word go. It's your 501c3 number, so I'm not sure what.
He's asking if it's the tax ID number or corporation number.
The corporation.
Okay, next question. I think Joelle asked, is this grant for an organization or for small business owners?
You have to be a 501c3 nonprofit or have a fiscal sponsor who is a 501c3.
Next question is, if your organization has a budget greater than 500K, do the requirements for the Tier 3 grants apply?
Yes.
Trinity asks.
And just to clarify, the Supervisor Lee's priorities are really supporting organizations that are grassroots, emerging organizations, or organizations with budgets that are, less than $500,000. So you are able to still apply if your budget is over 500,000. But again, the priority is for those organizations that fit under grant Tier 1, 2, and 3.
Next question is from Trinity. She said, I thought you mentioned that we need to submit our current year budget for Tier 2 and 3. Is this correct?
Yes, a budget for what you are asking funding for.
Okay, thank you. And then next one is from Francesca. If you are not a nonprofit and you can't find a fiscal advisor, I saw that you can use this form and apply as a non-urgent grant applicant, but it's due April 7th. Is this correct?
You still need to be a 501c3 to apply for the non-urgent. grant funding. It is correct that if you are over $500,000 as a nonprofit, your annual budget, your grant application deadline is April 7th instead of April 12th.
And Stefan asked, are we able to post a link to the example of the completed form you just showed?
You mean as part of your application submission?
I believe he's just asking if the example could be provided for any applicants who are interested, just as, I guess, a guiding like example for people.
Yes, it's on the website. And if you go to Supervisor Lee's website and then go under urgent grants, it has all of this is posted there. And the a recording from this technical assistance will be posted there too.
Another question is the Zoom required? Because I use the Zoom ID of the church for my nonprofit upper room rehabilitation services.
What I'm not sure what that, can you repeat that question again, Taylor?
I would think we need elaboration as well if the individual who's on the Christ Global Church Zoom would like to elaborate on what you mean by the Zoom that's required.
Can I speak? Yes, we have a church and we have a nonprofit organization, and I use the Zoom of the church to attend this meeting. So I don't know, sometimes there is only concerning grants, an obligation to attain the Zoom meeting. So it's for that reason that I don't know how I'm registered on your page, but I think it's Christ Global Church, where in fact I represent upper room rehabilitation services.
So if right now there is no other meetings that are planned for this fiscal year funding. So if we do have to have a meeting, anyone who is funded will need to, and I'm not sure if I'm answering your question correctly, but we'll need to figure out a way to get onto the Zoom meeting.
No, what I'm saying, sometimes there is Zoom meeting which are a requirement, and I represent upper room rehabilitation services, but I use a Zoom ID of the church. So I don't know if it's important for you for the registration of the people who attend your meeting. That's it.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's it. It was not a big.
Okay, and so someone asked, so I don't need to stay here if I'm not an organization?
If you are a 501c3, then you would qualify to apply for grant funding. If you do not have a 501c3 or a fiscal agent who is a 501c3, then you would not qualify for to apply for funding.
All right, thanks, Naomi. And then the next question is, if you apply to one or more supervisors, will that affect your grant request amounts from the different supervisors?
It shouldn't, but I can't answer further than that. Part of the reason why we need to know who you're working with is so that we are able to coordinate who is applied and who is going to be funded.
And then Francesca, Francesca, was that a question, your last chat?
Yes. So in reading the application, it says that if you don't meet the eligibility, you could request funding using a non-urgent grant, but you could use the same application, but you would submit it as a non-urgent application.
Okay, so I'm sorry that that's not clear. In the sense that if you don't meet the qualifications under the budget, annual budgets, that's what it's supposed to mean. So you still have to be a 501c3.
Okay,
But
thank you.
if your budget is, your annual organization budget is over 500,000, you would not qualify for this urgent grant funding, but you could be considered for other funding possibilities. But
But all
you know,
funding has to go to a nonprofit?
correct.
Okay.
All right, that's all the questions I saw in the chat.
Okay. Thank you very much. We will be posting the Q&As that have been emailed to us on our website within the week, and we will update those as they come along. If you have any questions, like I said, to be fair to everyone who is applying, if you could send that through email, then we will then post that to the website. So if you had a technical question like I can't put everything into one PDF, then yes, please feel free to call us. But if it's related to the grant specifically or your project that you are asking to be funded, then that needs to come in an email through the grant D3 email address. I hope that makes sense. Okay, if there's no other questions, then I look forward to getting your grant application. Remember, if you are applying for tier 1, 2, or 3, your grant application is due by April 12th, 5 p.m. If it's at 5:01, they will not be accepted. Last year, we got over 100 grant applications, and so it is, we want to make sure that we are able to go through all of the grants fairly and equitably, and that our community review panel is able to do that. And so if you are also able to submit today or anytime between today and April 12th, you will be able to do that, and we would appreciate that. And I see a question come in. Do you know when you will be notified? It will be around April 27th or 28th. Okay, any other questions? Again, thank you for coming on. Apologies for losing the PowerPoint, but hopefully it was clear enough to be able to go through the grant application. It is fairly simple and should be fairly, it's just, I think the hardest part will be for each tier to get to the maximum number of page limit, following that page limit qualification. Okay. Thank you very much. We will see you when we get your grant applications. Bye.